Before I start, let me just say thank you for being here today. Also, before I start with a very short prepared statement, I would like to express our heartfelt condolences to our host nation in the loss of 3 of your brave soldiers here about a week ago. Any loss is a bad one, and the entire NATO family reaches out with our thoughts and prayers for the soldiers and for their families. At least 2 of them had families that are left behind, so thank you for their sacrifice. Good afternoon, and thank you for attending the morning session of the Land Component Commanders Conference. Ben, thanks for hosting it and staying here to spend a few more minutes to talk with me and others this afternoon. I have a short statement, and then most importantly we'll get right to your questions. As you know, we are adapting to changes here in Europe. This is a historic moment for the alliance, and I'm proud to say that NATO is adapting as rapidly as its 21st century challenges are challenging us. It has been truly heartening for these past few weeks to see our alliance demonstrating its commitment to the people, while we are at the same time stepping up to these challenges in our rapidly changing security environment. The members of NATO have quite tangibly shown their unity and their resolve to provide the responsive collective defense that this new environment that we are experiencing calls for. I've had excellent discussions with our commanders over the past 3 days as we discuss and develop our military advice for our political leaders who will decide how the alliance moves forward in the coming weeks. And I'm looking forward to implementing their decisions. So with that, I'm ready to take your questions.
General, after the Wales summit, there was a decision about a new NATO reaction force able to deploy within days. Is it a final decision, or there are still discussions on the issue? And who will lead this force? Thank you very much.
So thank you. And you are correct. There was a decision, and the decision is made to create this very high readiness joint task force. You'll hear me now call it the VJTF because that's easier to say. But the decision has been made, and we are now implementing that decision. In fact, we had a wonderful conversation here with the armies who will be providing that portion, the land portion of that VJTF. So we have been given a timetable to deliver our plan and our proposal. It's a very short timeline to our political masters, and they will approve our final recommendations and decisions. In the meantime, we have a standing NRF with an immediate response force inside of it. From that force, we are going to constitute a more high readiness portion that would mirror our VJTF, so that NATO has this capability beginning very soon, and we will maintain that portion of the NRF through that time where the very high readiness task force, the VJTF, is in actual standing.
Hello, you said enough before about the relationship between NATO and Russia, and you said about Ukraine and Crimea, and how is the situation there is on. But I want to ask you if you believe that Russia is officially involved in this crisis, because Russia itself says that it has no any involved measure there. It's just autonomist.
Okay, thank you for that question. So this is a subject I like to talk about. What we have seen for the past 10 to 12 years is that NATO has been trying to develop a relationship with Russia and to make them a partner. And we have made decisions about our force structure, our force locations, and our budgets based on Russia being a partner in those last years. Of course, what we've seen across the last 6 months or so is that Russia has not been a partner. First, we saw this in 2008 with what they did in Georgia. Then we began to work with them again to get back into a partnership relationship following the invasion and the work that they did inside of Georgia. Since the last 6 months, what we have seen is a very sophisticated new form of warfare, which we are calling hybrid warfare. And one of the elements of this hybrid warfare is a very sophisticated informational and propaganda campaign. And a part of that campaign is clearly that Russia has denied that they have had involvement in either Crimea or eastern Ukraine. That the so-called little green men were local men. Of course, we're very certain and we're absolutely sure that that is not the case. Clearly Russia has been involved in the Crimea. Clearly Russia has been involved in eastern Ukraine. But we do have to deal with their information campaign, which tries to make it look otherwise. It's a very sophisticated campaign, which I think we can learn from, quite frankly, because they have done it very, very well. The use of the media, social media, internet, and other things to carry these false narratives. And now what we need to do is refute the false narrative.
Before a few days, General, it was some leaks in German media about the situation in the German armed forces. From the other hand, in some countries we have announcement about the decrease of the armed forces. For example, in Netherlands. What do you believe for the future? Is it possible NATO to continue their mission with this smallest armed forces and smallest expenditures in this area?
So again, it's a wonderful question, and let me go back to the answer I had to the previous gentleman and remind that for almost 10 to 12 years we have been treating Russia as a partner. And as a part of that, our nations, all of them, have made decisions about their defense expenditures, readiness, and other things based on Russia being a partner. And so defense expenditures have declined, force structure has declined, and this is a known fact. What I think you're speaking of also is recent revelations that we have some challenges in readiness in some of our forces. I again think that the Wales Summit was a wonderful summit because what it did was crystallize all of our understanding that we have to refocus on our readiness, that we have to stop decline in defense budgets, and we need to rethink what our investment profile is to meet the challenges. So all of those are positive results from Wales. The nation's committed to stopping a decline in defense budgets. And we committed to readiness. And in the ultimate form of the VJTF, we committed to bringing a portion of the force to very high readiness. And so those are all positive outcomes. To your big question of can NATO respond? NATO is still the most powerful military alliance in the world. It has guaranteed in large portion the peace around Europe for the past 65 to 70 years. We clearly have had some small problems, but nation states on nation states, we have kept this to an absolute minimum. And I credit NATO for that effort across the years. And NATO will be ready for the next challenge as well.
Sir, my name is Leonidas Blaveris from Parapolitica newspaper. I would like to ask you, in NATO outer border, there are a vivid Muslim threat. But except of this, we have the so-called asymmetric threat. An example is the illegal immigrants. I would like to ask you, how can NATO confront with this threat? Because here in our area, in Greece, we have a very serious problem. Not only from the humanitarian part of the problem, but also for the security purpose of problem, because a lot of them is probably there are some fanatical Muslims who return to their country in Europe. Has NATO an answer to this problem? Thank you.
So again, a wonderful question, and one that we have talked about quite a lot in NATO. Clearly, the Russian threat consumes our thought in the north, but our NATO partners in the south have a different series of challenges. We talk about this area as MENA, the Middle East and North Africa, and what are the challenges from the MENA area that that NATO should face. And so NATO has to respond to certain things. First and foremost, we all understand that we call this foreign fighter flow, the return of radicals who have gone from our nations to these areas, become radicalized, and then return to our NATO nations. This foreign fighter flow is a big problem that we are embracing as an alliance. We are beginning to do very exquisite sharing of intelligence, data, not only militarily, but with our ministries of interior and law enforcement agencies to begin to bring pressure as an alliance on the foreign fighter flow. As to the ability to address issues in North Africa, which are the root cause of what you are talking about in immigration, NATO is embracing and working with the African Union and others to begin to look at how to address these issues. But right now there has not been a formal call or a formal mission for NATO to deal individually with immigration flows.
General, ISIS is moving fast and advance their action closer and closer to Turkey. Have NATO considering a possible deployment in Turkey in order to support its member Turkey? And are there any discussions on the issue? And what is the threat they pose to the alliance?
Okay, I was overhearing General Hodges' discussion, and so part of the answer will be the same answer that he gave, and that is that NATO has already responded to Turkey in an amazing way at a very fast rate, and now sustained over 2 years. Turkey called for NATO to aid in their air defense and ballistic missile defense. And we had a rapid response of patriots from 3 nations that have now been sustained over a year and will be sustained for at least through the end of the next year. We have 3 nations in there delivering tactical ballistic missile defense and now air defense to Turkey. So already we have responded to our southern partner, our southern ally, in their request for help with this issue. So I see this already as a very successful story. The alliance could not be more clear about its absolute commitment to Article 5 defense. If our ally Turkey calls for consultations about incursions of ISIL into Turkey or the need to defend it, NATO will respond if ISIL crosses into Turkey. This is what we do. We do collective defense. But most importantly, I must say that we already have met the asks from Turkey about air defense. And it's a good example of how our alliance works. So let me just wrap up and say thank you for your questions today. Thank you for being here. We have had a wonderful conference already. The discussion this morning about the challenges that we face and the way that the land component as a part of a joint team, land, air, and sea, fits into that, have been very fruitful. And quite frankly, I have taken some real good learning and some real good tasks for my headquarters to work to support our land commanders in the future. And I would just like to thank our Greek hosts one more time for putting on a splendid conference and giving us the ability to address these really tough issues. Thank you.